In times like these, we all need a word of encouragement. From pastor and best-selling author Max Lucado comes the Max Lucado Encouraging Word podcast. With over 40 years of ministry and more than 145 million books sold in 50 languages, Max shares the greatest story ever told, the living Savior who brings hope for a lifetime. Through rich biblical insight, heartfelt storytelling, you'll be reminded that God is always near, always for you, and always in you. Listen to the Max Lucado Encouraging Word podcast, where hope meets your day. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation, as usual, as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about dementia change. We will.
Well, ladies, I am so excited to have you with me today on the show. I love talking about music and the effects of it. I found it very profound for my own mother, who lived with dementia for 30 years. In fact, I have video clips of her towards her end stages where she just comes to life. And I don't think people realize how powerful it is. So I can't wait to dive into what you're doing and how you're doing it and how people can participate and leverage music themselves. So I'm first going to have you each introduce yourself. And so, Andrea, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Andrea Leap, and I'm an instructor at MacPhail Center for Music, where I've taught for about 20 years in a variety of roles. Started out teaching voice primarily, and then started teaching more classes which were geared towards older adults, and really found that was, that's my dog, really found that was an excellent fit for me in terms of understanding how music functioned in a really important way for people who were in different stages of their life. And that was a really good fit for me. And so I teach classes that are about music history and help people learn more about how music functions. But I also teach older singers and also older music writers. Just worked with a group of students who wanted to write their own songs and helped them create that, which was really fun.
Oh, very cool. And Ann, you want to give us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Ann Schrempp. I have been working with older adults living with dementia for 18 years. I have started out as a nursing assistant a long time ago and have worked in activities and operational leadership since that time. I work for Ebenezer Senior Living. And part of my role is I'm what we call our Dimensions coordinator. So I oversee our dementia program. And yeah, I'm a mother of two and happy to be here.
Okay, well, wonderful. I always like to start out so our audience has a basis of, have you ever been touched by dementia personally in your own family or circle of friends? And Anna, I'll throw that back to you.
Yes, well, we've had dementia in our family, but the closest would be my great aunt. She passed away of dementia a few years ago, and she had traditional or Alzheimer's, and she was this incredible, inspiring woman her whole life to the very end.
Okay, thanks. Andrea, how about you? Have you been personally touched?
I have, not with a family member, but when I was in graduate school as a music student, I got recruited by somebody through a professor who was, he was a concert violinist, and his father had dementia. And he asked me to stop by and be a companion for him a couple times a week and read to him because his eyesight was going. And he ended up being this sort of surrogate grandfather to me for quite some time, shared interests in music and literature. And it was this wonderful connection point at a part in my life where I didn't really know my own grandfathers, and it was very early, and it had quite a bit of impact on my understanding of how dementia functions, and what it takes away from people and what still can be rich as a life with it.
And Andrea, I'll start with you on this because I want to get both of your inputs. But why does music matter so much to older adults, especially those with memory loss?
Well, I would argue that music matters to all of us, but music is really sticky, the way that it lands in your brain, and it stays there in ways that other things can't. And that's partly because of how our brains take it in and help us maintain it, because it's working on a lot of neural pathways at the same time. But it's also related to all of these experiences that we have in life, right? So there are certainly songs in my life that if I hear them, I am transported immediately back to a particular moment in my life. And that holds true for most people, right? There's an association that we have with it that's really helpful for recalling these wonderful memories that we have. But it also is something that if you are not as able to remember things, or you find remembering things really frustrating, music is easier to remember. And so it gives you something to hold on to when some other things are still slipping away. And so that can be, I think, really, really important. The other element, of course, is that sometimes it's a communal activity, something you do together. So it brings you back into this world that is, again, becoming a little bit harder to hang on to. So.
Wonderful. Ann, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that music matters in dementia care, not just because it's enjoyable, but because it reaches parts of the brain that often remain accessible even as other abilities decline. I've seen this firsthand so many times. So someone may not remember, be able to remember a family member's name, for example, or know exactly what they had for lunch, but they can sing every word to their favorite hymn or song. It's kind of amazing.
I think the Speckle program does a really nice job. They talk about, especially over time as the disease progresses, that people with dementia, a lot of times they forget the facts, but they remember the emotions. Mm-hmm. And that's what I saw with my mom. She would just light up, like she'd be singing, something about the ball game or something. Let's go out to the ball game. And she would, her hands started going, her feet started flapping. I mean, she was in this just huge smile. And, it was like something back in her childhood that just brought her joy, or that's how I perceived it anyways.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe it. I mean, the music bypasses any of our damaged pathways or challenges that any of us might be having, and it goes straight to our hearts, right? It restores connection and identity and dignity. And I can't tell you how many times just singing a song with somebody during and providing care for them, it just makes everything more enjoyable and more meaningful. And our MacPhail sessions are above and beyond that, right? Because it's not just a sing-along, it's music, but music education and movement and expression.
It's kind of like a soul journey, to me. The connections are so strong and so vivid and so comforting. Though, music can also, a lot of times I've been in the car and all of a sudden I'm crying over a song that hits some other emotions on me too. So we have to be careful, of course, with what we use. And I'll throw this one back to you. Because in your work, you see, a lot of changes, I'm sure, with seniors and music becoming part of their regular life. And that social and emotional and even relational connections. And I hear about it in my support groups all the time, where people just look forward to going to sessions like you guys have. Can you dive into that a little bit more of what you see and what you see some of the benefits being of that?
Sure. I think that music can shift from a caregiver perspective, right? I think music can shift us from task-based care to relationship-based care. So it reminds us that we're not just supporting somebody who has, A and B diagnosis or is older or whatever we see when we're working with people, but instead it makes it more readily accessible to just honor that whole human being that you get to be spending time with. So, I think music activates multiple areas of the brain at once. So memory and emotion and movement, which is why activities like MacPhail Music for Life can unlock abilities that seem lost when first maybe spending time with somebody who's living with a form of dementia.
Okay. Andrea, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think Ann is spot on when she's talking about bringing dignity to the situation. I think that's really important. It somehow evens the playing field, I think, between the person who is suffering from dementia and other people, to say, oh, we're all in this space, right? We all are emotionally affected by music. We all have this response, which is sometimes really overwhelming, right? And it just reminds us of the things that we hold similarly, right? And I think that's really very, very helpful for the situation. I'm reminded I was teaching a class the other day about love songs, and I was playing a variety of love songs. And this gentleman in the front row just started tearing up a little bit. And at the end of class, he turned to one of his fellow students and said, oh, that song, that reminds me of when I was in the service and blah, 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 blah. And he just went down this road, and the two of them just had this moment to connect about something, just brought a piece of connection, which then they were able to build upon. So I don't think it's just an end in and of itself. I think it's also something that can spur additional connection and additional conversation.
Need a daily spark of hope and direction? Let the Daily Bible app from Salem Media be that spark. This free Android app delivers an uplifting verse each morning, plus reading plans, devotions, and trusted podcasts from leaders like Joyce Meyer and Rick Warren. Prefer to listen instead? The Daily Bible app reads verses, reading plans, and chapters aloud, handy for the headphones moment of your day. Choose from versions like ESV, NIV, KJV, and more, and bookmark favorites to revisit later. Share inspiring messages with loved ones right from the app. Feel God's presence in every notification. Search for Daily Bible app on Google Play and begin your day with hope, purpose, and peace.
Which I think is so valuable.
Oh, I agree. I think, especially when you're doing your groups, you've got that connectivity between them. But to me, one of the biggest things that I hear through my support groups of people who participate in these groups is they feel normal again. They just, it's like the disease disappears, even though maybe all the words aren't coming out and things aren't going perfect. It's just a normal activity. They used to be in the choir at church, and maybe they can't do that anymore. And it just layers that dignity, and that gives them this softness of we're still in relationship. And I think so often with caregiving, people can get really task oriented, and it slices that relationship, and it takes over that relationship. So I think, I think these music groups that you are doing, just you can't even sum up what it gives a family. And then when you guys do your concerts and stuff, and the numbers that show up, it's truly a gift. And it's just this ripple effect to so many. Andrea, I want to ask you too, I've heard you say there's no hiding in singing. You're just there. I personally try to hide because I do not have a good voice, But my mom with dementia kind of taught me, go ahead and belt it out, Lori. No one really cares. Other people will chime in and they'll cover you up, type thing. So it'll be safe. And if they don't, it doesn't make any difference. It was like the ego gets out of the way. But I want you to kind of define that a little bit more about the vulnerability in music and, how that affects people and, how that can improve their life.
Well, I think singing in particular is the reason there's no hiding is because it's attached to your breath and it's coming out of your body, right? So if you are emotionally moved, your breath is usually altered, right? If you think about laughing or crying, things don't operate quite as smoothly as you want. So it really puts you in that place. And to sing requires you to really use that in a way that can sometimes open you up. Like I find, especially in modern American life, a lot of times we walk around kind of just held a little bit in presentation mode, and that can really relax things and open things up. But one of the things that I encounter a lot in working with older adults are people who earlier in their life were told not to sing or were told not to participate in music because they didn't have a good voice or because they were, too loud or too whatever. And to give them the opportunity to try and actually learn and overcome some of those hurdles, that has been a huge gift that I've seen to older adults, this idea that learning and improving is not over, that's not something that has just stopped now that you hit a certain age and now you're done and everything, your limits are in place. It has been a real, I think, invigorating thing to see people come to the realization that they still have possibility in their life. That's been huge and it's just very inspiring to see people who are willing to try that and then to be encouraged to continue with that. And I think that's a really important element of them feeling engaged in community and, I learned that, look what I was able to do, look what I accomplished. I didn't know that I was capable of that. Those are all really big things, I think, for anyone at any age, but particularly with older adults who are not encouraged always to do new things or try things that are risky or difficult. So that I think can be very important. And I also think that with singing, if you have a group of people singing, everyone is equally vulnerable together. And that puts us all in this place. It doesn't matter if you have dementia or not. We can all make mistakes. We can all have moments when it doesn't sound good or doesn't do what we thought it was going to do. And those are not high stakes when you're in it together, right? You get the sense of, okay, well, we're all here just trying to do it. And I think that's of use to us too, to be more comfortable with smaller failures, right? That those are not earth-shattering or they're not life or death. It's just a note that you sang wrong, like it's no big deal. And that's, I think, a way that we can teach ourselves some self-forgiveness and some grace, which I think for caregivers in particular can be very useful, but for everyone, really.
Yeah, I think it's so empowering and gives people purpose and makes them feel like they belong. And, those are, three things that dementia kind of squashes. I mean, as soon as people get that diagnosis, it comes into effect in so many different realms. And so I think that, that is really important. The other thing I want to add on, and Ann, I'll ask you if you see this, but I do a thing called Dementia in the Arts, and we use all different types of arts, but the artists all say when they're in the zone, their symptoms melt away. They're just not focused on it. They're not as tense. They're in the zone. Do you see that when the music comes into play as well? Yeah,
I've seen it many times. I think that it's a lovely way to describe the experience, having the symptoms melt away. I've been in many a music session over the years. My primary experience with MacPhail in particular is in an intergenerational setting. So where there's preschoolers participating in the music with their grandfriends. And I would say, wherever people are at in the morning before they were coming down for the music experience, the way they left the experience is always better than how it found them. I haven't seen that not be the case. I seriously, in all my years, I've never seen somebody come to make music with the children and their neighbors and not be in a more joyful, positive mood when they walk away or roll away. So I think I don't know if that answers your question. I think there's just so many examples. So let me think. I had one person that I had the privilege of being a part of their care team, and he had a lot of chronic pain. He often kind of struggled with anxiety, not knowing where he was often looking for his wife. So his days in many respects were very stressful, a lot of the time. But on Thursday mornings at 10:45, we went to MacPhail, and he would laugh so gregoriously and loudly with the children. And when he was singing, he had the most, oh gosh, Andrea, is it baritone? Is that the really deep, such a strong baritone voice, and just sang so proudly, and formerly had played the French horn. And I don't know, I mean, every week it was this joyful abundance that happened for 45 minutes. And all the other times during the week, it wasn't always joyful abundance. But in that moment it was. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm just thinking of that particular person when I think about getting in the zone, because he would get in the zone.
Well, I love that. I know, when my mom was living in community, there would be certain people that would just recognize the music leader, and they would just light up as soon as they saw them. They might not remember the name or anything, but it was like, we're going to have a good time, couldn't get down there. Or, some people would just repeat, when are we going to do this again? Is that coming, because they were so excited, and they loved it. They knew they were in the zone, and they wanted to get back in it, and I think so often we overlook the power of something that we use on a daily basis. And even though, if we sit back and think, we know music ties into us emotionally, and it can turn our moods around, we don't readily apply that. That's why I'm loving having this conversation with you guys today, because it is really, really powerful to so many. And you had mentioned an intergenerational group, and we haven't really kind of talked about the different groups. So I want to make sure that we plug that in too. So do you want to tell us about your intergenerational groups or other groups that you do at Ebenezer with music?
Sure. So Ebenezer has intergen shared sites, is what they're called. So we have senior living communities that have on-site child cares and preschools. We're the largest provider of that in the United States, incredibly enough. And so at our intergen shared sites, we have MacPhail happening weekly with residents and the children. So they do MacPhail Music for Life side by side, it's called. So they learn about music theory and do rhythm and movement and dance together in that program. And we're committed to intergenerational connections in all of our communities. So not everybody has an on-site childcare, but we do have music programs with local school children or summer camp groups. Or moms groups, it just depends. But at the intergen shared sites, every week that the kids and residents are learning and playing together. And I genuinely have to say, there's something about the music programs or the meeting with the kids that even our folks with dementia, it's like the muscle memory is powerful. Like I said, Thursdays at 10:45, I just feel like people know that they have to get to music and that it's going to be a good day and that it's a priority that they get there. And, they might have an appointment or somebody wants to take a shower, but everything stops because they have to get to music.
Looking for a simple way to stay rooted in God's Word every day? The Daily Bible Devotion app by Salem Media gives you morning and evening devotionals designed to encourage, inspire, and keep you connected with Scripture. Plus, you'll enjoy daily Bible trivia and humor, a fun way to learn and share a smile while growing in your faith. Get the Daily Bible Devotion app for free on both iOS and Android. Start and end your day with God's Word. Search for the Daily Bible Devotion app in the App Store or Google Play Store and download it today.
Great. Andrew, do you want to tell us about some of your programs at MacPhail?
Sure. MacPhail has a variety of programs for older adults. There's the intergenerational music classes that Ann mentioned. We also have some choirs for older adults, which is great, specifically some for older adults with dementia, and then others not for older adults with dementia, but just so there's a variety of entry points there. We've got some classes which are more about music history, and so a lot of times we might take an artist that might speak to this age group, like Carole King or Duke Ellington, or a type of music, surf rock or something like that, and talk about it, and then talk about how it developed, and then play some of the hits from that era so that they get to do a little bit of going down memory lane, but also a little bit more engagement with the intellectual and academic part of music. We also do classes called story songs, where we'll give a little bit of background and then have it sort of like a much fancier sing-along, I guess you would say, with more information and history and some elements of music theory worked in so that people can understand that. And then, of course, we also have a excellent music therapy department as well, which can work a little bit more with the memory care and specific music classes in that area, which requires a little different skill set usually, of course. But we really, when MacPhail Music for Life started, they started it as this program that was going to be for adults 55 and older. And, that's a really diverse population, 55 and older. That's, first of all, several generations that are covered, and really, really different ability levels. So people who are, active retirees, you have people who are, homebound. I mean, it's a real wide swath. And so the idea was, as the program's built, to just create lots of different entry points so that wherever you were, you could have a place that felt like a comfortable and accessible way to participate with music, because, MacPhail really walks the walk. They do believe that music education is for everyone, and that this is something that can enrich everyone's life and bring everyone into a community. And so it was just a matter of trying to find ways to make that easy for anyone at any stage to participate in.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, I want to give just a quick shout out to Q for Good. They are my webmasters who I adore. They make life so easy, and I'm hanging on tight, buckled up for the full moon today, because usually that makes my technology goes wonky, but I know they'll be all over it if it is. So if you're looking for a good, affordable company that communicates really well, check out Q for Good. Let's go back into our questions here. Ann, I want to talk to you because, you're in the senior living environment, and, that atmosphere, that culture, I would imagine you do other things besides just the MacPhail thing that ties into music through activities, or am I wrong there?
You're not wrong. At Ebenezer, we refer to our creative approach to aging as our lifelong learning initiative. So our lifelong learning initiative has existed now, I think, almost 14 years. I've been with Ebenezer for 12 of those. But we try to offer lifelong learning programs that hit on kind of four pillars. One is, any lifelong learning program needs to provide an opportunity for people to have individual expression. So, for example, maybe we do a poetry class, and in that poetry class, an individual can create or share their own story or poem. And that can be a few words to several lines. It just depends on a person's capacity. But in that same poetry class, based on people's capacity, they're also writing poetry with their neighbors. So there's an opportunity for community. So they get to express themselves, but then they also get to be a part of something above and beyond themselves, part of a group, which is really important. And then, that opportunity to create legacy, I think oftentimes we don't recognize as a culture or society that people want to contribute and to be a part of the world around them by building legacy till the very end. And that can be as simple as, helping volunteer or be a part of something. So in a poetry class, for example, you get together with a group, you write a poem together, you can post and share it, you can make a chapbook, you can make an actual book, you could have a poetry reading. So there's just different ways to share what is being created. The same goes for art classes. We have a lot of visual arts classes, so people can make paintings, but we try to have galleries in our communities so that we're actually hanging people's artwork, having art shows. And, for MacPhail, over the years, we've done different programs where we had MacPhail come in and do drumming circles or teach people how to play the ukulele, or they perform the music that they've been learning over the last however many months for their community members. And so I think that expression, creativity, community, legacy is just kind of a simple way to break down what a creative arts program should be doing in our communities. And this is the case outside of senior living. I mean, creative opportunities are good in schools. They're good for me at home. And it's all very evidence-based, but that lifelong learning is just a key component to what we try to provide at Ebenezer. And I would hope in any senior living setting, because it's just so important to have access to those opportunities, even if you maybe can't get around so easily anymore, or you do need to live somewhere where you need help with day-to-day things. I just know that for myself or for my own parents, I would want to, if I was somebody who needed those things, I would want to be in a community where I still had an opportunity to share myself in whatever level I'm capable of, whether that's writing a poem or singing a song, just still being a part of my community and giving something despite it all or in spite of it all.
One thing I want to have you add on here too is, because I think this is overlooked, and I might be wrong, your response might be totally different than what I think, but what are the response and benefits that you see to your music programs for your staff? Do you see a change in their attitude or moods or level of engagement when that comes? And same with families when they visit and kind of witness those programs.
I love that question. I would love for that specific piece to be highly researched. I mean, that's a dream of mine, because I do see a significant difference in care partners when they are involved in nearby, connected to those creative aging opportunities for people that they're caring for. In MacPhail music in particular, I've seen it be a connecting space for spouses who maybe are are struggling to find connection, just because of the dynamics of their care partner positions. I don't know if I'm speaking about that as eloquently as I would like to be, but I've just seen it be a game changer for that 45 minutes that they're together making music. It's like all that other stuff kind of falls away and they can just sing together. But in regards to staff, I would say when those programs happen, they know that the people they're caring for are going to come back in a better mood. They're going to be happier. They're going to be more joyful. And that makes a really big difference. I mean, if you're serving somebody some lunch or helping them in the restroom, whatever it may be, it's going to be a more positive experience when you're singing together, or somebody has just gotten done making music than, if they were watching soap operas or TV all day.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
Yeah, I think too, for like the care partners, they get to witness the joy. Mm-hmm. And that's just so calming. And so, again, it connects them on that relationship level. And for me, what I also found was that a lot of times it connected them to other care partners, and sometimes they miss those one-on-ones, or it makes visiting easier because others are there. Now they have a personal friend too. Mm-hmm. And that makes a huge difference. And then for staff, I guess what I have witnessed as well is, yes, they come back in a better mood, but there's kind of this ripple effect, because I think staff can look and kind of see the soul of the residents in terms of the joy. Well, they can be happy. Who would have thought, because sometimes you just have that curmudgeon that's just always, on edge and not really happy. And then they are able to experience this other person, and it gives them ideas in terms of how to connect and why to connect, with them, because I think sometimes there can be that belief, no matter how much training we do, that they're not able to connect anymore. And by witnessing those things, I just, I'm a big believer in the only way to change things is not through the mind and logic, but it's through the heart. And getting people to really feel the reason, to connect in the possibilities at hand. Anything that you wanted to add, Andrea, on that question? Because I'm sure, you're staff yourself, but I'm sure there's others, and you see those family connections as well.
I do see there are certain places where I go, for instance, where it's a standing date for a caregiver, and that's a day that they're coming in and they're going to spend it with their mom, or they're going to spend it with their sister, but a family going, oh, this is a thing we're going to come to together because we both enjoy it, right? One of the places that I have been for a long time, Aurora, an Ebenezer site, there's a granddaughter who comes and sits with her grandmother, and they just yuck it up, the whole class, and just have a blast. And it's really fun to see those connections as well.
Well, and I think music too makes it safe, because there's a lot of family members that don't know how to connect. I mean, my brothers were like that. Like, I could have conversations and I could do different things. Like I would always bring in my lotion, and even when my mom was in her end stages, I could massage her. My daughter would bring in the fingernail polish. My brothers were like, not so much. They're not touchy-feely. So, we got the CD player and they could push the button and they'll play mom's music for her. And, it was just something so simple as that to make people feel more comfortable interacting is really, really powerful. Well, I want to wrap up and just, hear, and Andrea, I'll start with you. We often hear, about staying socially and cognitively active is really important, and it supports the brain. And from what you witnessed, stands on there, and I think we've kind of touched on some of this. Do you see the power of music fitting into all of that from a brain health standpoint?
Yeah, I think one of the things about music, and maybe this is my experience of it, but I believe this to be true, is that it's very all-consuming. Like it is making you work lots of different things at the same time, right? There's a melody and there's words and there's rhythm and there's emotion. All of this is happening concurrently. It's really requires a tremendous amount of executive function, right, while you're doing it. But the thing that I have found most interesting is how much curiosity it creates in the people who are participating. So questions about what they're experiencing in the music, questions about the history of the music. If we're writing music together, questions about why we would do this rather than this, or what if we tried this? Like it really feels like the curiosity engagement part is, I think, much more impressive than the mastery of the music, right? It's really incredible to see that sort of like light switch turn on. And it could be just simple questions even, but something that, because it touches them emotionally, as you mentioned, then they start to go down a path and wondering, well, what does this mean and why? And so we get a lot of good curiosity and social engagement, not to mention, of course, a lot of sharing back and forth. So there's a social component, and then I think this sort of little inspirational fuse that gets lit with music I see a lot. So
yeah, very, very cool. So in wrapping up to our audience, I just want to say I hope you found this topic of how music supports us as we age and with our cognitive health enlightening. I always find it really joyful, and it's something easy that I think I can participate in. Even if my voice is bad, and I can't carry a tune, there's still things that I can work my way into to support someone that I love or care for in terms of doing that. And of course, we always ask you to be a giver of hope. And by being a giver of hope, all we're asking for is that you like, click, and share. It takes very little time. It costs you no money, but it's really powerful to get these messages out to the people who need to hear them. We all think that, someone's dealing with heart disease or diabetes or dementia. They got everything they need. They don't. It's a new road, and it's constantly changing. And so the more we can get this information out, the more people see this information, actually it makes it easier to reach out and explore it, especially when it's coming from a trusted source within your own peep group. That makes a big, big difference to many people. Now, I want to also make sure that we give contact information out. And so, Andrea, at MacPhail Music Center, I've got MacPhail.org as your main website. And then you are on Facebook as MacPhail Music. You are also on Instagram with the same name. Kudos for you. Sometimes it gets complicated. And then LinkedIn, MacPhail is also listed at MacPhail Center for Music. You'll be able to find everything there. And it did not have the contact information that we should have for you. Do you want to give out your website? I would imagine that's probably primary, and they can find everything from there.
So Ebenezer's website is ebenezercares.org. That's how you would find our website that lists out all of our locations. We also have resources for care partners and information about dementia as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both for your time today, and keep up the great work. And I look to stay in touch with you guys in the future. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so nice to see you again.
So in our final wrap up, again, I just want to remind people to please check out Alzheimer Speaks and all of the free educational resources we have there. Again, just alzheimerspeaks.com, as well as our sister company, Dementia Map, which is just dementiamap.com. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Attention seniors. Are you looking for a community that offers incredible benefits and stands up for your values? Look no further than AMAC. With an AMAC membership, you'll enjoy exclusive discounts on insurance, travel, dining, and shopping. Stay informed with 6 issues a year of our award-winning AMAC magazine, delivering trusted news and valuable insights. But that's not all. AMAC is committed to defending America's future by directly bringing the voices of our more than 2 million members to our elected officials. Join a community that cares about your needs and your values. For a limited time, we're offering a 1-year membership for only $1. Yes, just $1 for a year of incredible benefits and advocacy. Don't wait. Take advantage of this special offer and join AMAC today. Visit amac.us/join now. That's amac.us/join now.